Today, we're going to look at ProcessMaker as it helps our banking clients. So first, what we're going to talk about is our typical banking customer and what they're seeing as their current state with a handful of processes. And then we're going to spend the majority of the time hands-on into the product, specifically as it relates to some of the solutions that we've offered with our banking customers. So let's start with talking about our typical banking client. Most banks look something like this, where ultimately the foundation of their business is really deposits and loans. And oftentimes they have different divisions or departments, whether that's retail, commercial, treasury, wealth management, and others. But ultimately they're to service their customers with all of these different financial products. One of the most common products and really the core to the business for any traditional bank is a loan. And of course, a typical life of loan looks something like this, where there's a request, the bank is gathering various documents to do underwriting, approving the credit, doing any further due diligence necessary, closing on the loan, and ultimately ongoing servicing. On the deposit side, a typical account opening looks something like very similar, other than some of the components are going to be slightly different. For example, compliance is going to be a key important thing. Another example is any treasury services or fee-based services like ACH and wire or other services that get added to the typical account. Of course, banks have all kinds of other business processes throughout the institution in a variety of capacities, but those are certainly core and foundational to any of our banking clients. But in reality, what do most of our clients look like in the current state before they join and start implementing ProcessMaker? In reality, often their systems look something like this, where they have Excel and paper documents, PDFs, they're scanning and printing, they're actually storing files in file cabinets, rescanning again to email, to print, using Excel and signing documents with wet signature, using all kinds of delivery mechanisms, and ultimately none of this talking to their core banking system. So what this means is siloed data where they re-enter information over and over again. But not only when they re-enter the data do they find challenges, but also the bottlenecks that ensue, where the process becomes very cumbersome with all kinds of back and forth between different systems, different parties internally, externally, et cetera. And this leads to very inefficient as well as error-prone re-entry of information. But when our clients first come to us, often they're coming to solve this internal challenge. But as they work with us, what they find is that it's not only the internal challenge, but ultimately the external frustration of their customers as well as partners. So for example, the banking customer, whether they're a prospective customer or an existing customer, and how they interact with the bank, often paper-based, requiring going into a branch, rather than digital engagement, whether that's on a mobile device, whether it's online through a browser or a portal. But additionally, for other partners, for example, attorneys for closing or appraisers to appraise real estate, all kinds of really inefficient paper-based processes with these external parties. And so what they find is not only can they streamline their internal processes, but ultimately with ProcessMaker, digitally engage with their customers and other partners externally, which brings not only better efficiency, but a much better customer experience. So with that said, we're going to spend the remainder of the time hands-on in ProcessMaker's product. So to start with, what I want to do is pull up a fictitious bank website. Right here, you can see that I have just a fake Google site here that simulates what a bank could look like. And we're going to see ProcessMaker through the lens of this particular PB bank, just to explore some of the features and capabilities of the solution and how we've helped other institutions that are clients of ours. So the key focus for today is that we're going to look at first a quick high-level overview of the platform. Then we're going to run through a couple hands-on examples as if we were a bank and a client working with the bank. And then we'll come back and look at the design tools in order to build any of these solutions, as well as look at the specific solutions that we designed here today. So to start, what we're going to do is get a quick overview of the platform. We'll spend just 2 or 3 minutes here looking at some of the high-level features and capabilities. Right now, I'm logged in as an administrator. So I have full permissions. What we're going to talk about a little bit first is the navigation. You'll see I have a pop-out menu on the left where I can easily navigate various different menus. These are all tailored and, as you can tell, fully configurable and customized to the particular institution. And of course, out of the box for banks, it's very tailored to their experience. In addition, we have the top menu where we have the workflows themselves. This is where our clients, especially management, can track statuses, manage SLAs, and really see what's happening within their institution. We also have the tasks, where any individual user who needs to perform various different tasks will see any individual item that they have pending, due dates, they can easily sort and filter, etc. Additionally, we have our design tool, where this is where we're able to build out our process models, our forms, any other pieces of the solution. We have our administration component. This is where we manage users, permissions, as well as the overall interface and language of the platform. And finally, we have collections, which are our low-code database and CRUD tool. This allows us to manage data that's really asynchronous from a process. So we'll come back to each of these components, but one point to make is that ProcessMaker is a fully SaaS solution hosted in Amazon Web Services. So all of the platform is architected web first and fully hosted and fully managed on cloud infrastructure. So as we go through this demonstration, what we're going to do then is focus on some key specific areas of the platform. So to start with, I'm going to simulate more of an end user experience. This is going to be both from the perspective of the customer, as well as internal staff like loan officers, credit analysts, branch managers, etc. So we're going to look at this through the lens of a few different types of use cases. One is going to be loan origination, another is account opening, and finally, ongoing servicing or tickler management within a bank. So within this example fake bank website, I wanted to highlight that ProcessMaker's web forms not only can be loaded within ProcessMaker, but we can very easily publish these and load them within our banking clients. So for example, let's say a customer wants to have an online loan application filled out here. And so I start filling out as a client certain information. I can easily navigate through the web form, put in various information as the client, and ultimately submit this application. What you just noticed is that all happened within this fictitious website within a bank. However, it's ultimately ProcessMaker's web form and fires off a process, which we'll see downstream in just a moment. Another example might be account opening. So for example, maybe the bank wants to allow their commercial clients to be able to open up business accounts. And so a client could do something like that, where they fill in their business information. They start putting in kind of relevant information, choose various different components, enter different things. Maybe they need to, as a result of compliance, add any beneficial owners, where they can then provide, ownership structure of the business and continue on in the process. Also signers. So on a business account, maybe there's multiple signers and they are able to fill that information out very easily. Also, of course, the product itself, where they may select who the signers or signer may be, what type of account, whether they're going to be adding other services like treasury services, online banking, remote deposit, foreign exchange, ACH, wire, etc. And of course, then very quickly review all of the information, see any terms and conditions, and then attest that it is accurate and true. And so what you see is very quickly a client or some third-party vendor can, of course, submit requests that fire off a process or manage things within the middle of a process that are necessary to be accomplished. These things, of course, not only can be anonymous, where a user does not have to log in, but simply submit information, but we can also force authentication, where you can make it a secure login required. Now let's see that through the lens of then the bank employee and staff. So this loan request came in, and you'll see, for example, a notification shows that a few seconds ago we got a loan request, and we have the task here assigned to John Doe, and you can see any other participants and whatnot. So in this use case, the loan officer is going to be able to come in and look at the task assigned. You'll see all of the data flows forward from, in this case, the submission on the web. The loan officer certainly can add information like this business is owned by Bruce Wayne and makes cool technology, ... Of course, we can make these simple or complex multi-page forms. For example, we have also the loan information, any collateral, the ability to upload financial information. which in this case, we'll see how this is going to automatically route the credit based off of various criteria from financials. We can also, of course, upload files that are necessary, like tax returns, business financial statements, personal financials, etc. And in this case, the loan officer is going to submit this request then for underwriting. Now, what's going to happen in this particular flow is I'm going to log out and log back in as the analyst. And what we're going to find out is the credit analyst now gets assigned this credit. And you'll see that a few seconds ago, we got a notification that financial metrics need to be assessed on a particular client. So all that data flows forward from user to user as the assignment rules route the loan request properly. All of the information flows, and of course, in this particular case, the credit analyst can add their comments. They can make modifications as they need to, etc. In this particular case, though, the credit analyst is okay with the initial assessment of the financials, so they're going to continue forward and ultimately risk rate the credit. What we're highlighting here is that ProcessMaker's web forms not only can handle data entry as well as viewing, but also calculations. And all of these calculations and rules are able to be done without code as well. So for example, this is not only scoring it on a traditional risk rating matrix with, on this case, a 1 to 9, but it's also performing a probability of default and loss given default dual rating in addition. You'll see various factors that were automatically calculated. Of course, the underwriter can make adjustments as they use their discretion. And some things may be more of an intangible or qualitative component where they can finalize said risk rating. So now the credit analyst is complete their task. It's ultimately going to go back to the loan officer. So let's log back in as the loan officer. And what we're going to see here is the loan officer now has a new task assigned to them, loan pricing. So based off of the risk assessment from the underwriter, now we're going to incorporate a risk-based pricing approach, or RAROC. And this is going to allow the loan officer to punch in some additional information, see any of the income, all of the expenses, and ultimately see how profitable this transaction would be based off of various different scenarios. In addition to needing to perform loan pricing, though, with our commercial clients, typically they're also then putting together what would be called, in many institutions, a credit memo. Essentially, this is an approval document that summarizes all of the things that have been happening. You'll see it's all digital. Everything's rolled forward. All of the information is there, and the loan officer can now add their comments to the memo. They can, of course, route that maybe backwards, maybe reject it, or send it forward. In this case, we're going to send it forward. And finally, I'm going to log in as the loan committee. So this is very common with commercial credits over a certain dollar amount that they're going to get routed to a loan committee made up of executives within the bank. So the loan committee can certainly log in and perform these tasks, read through anything, and of course, add their own commentary. But in addition, ProcessMaker has a feature set called Actions by Email, where the entire data of the form can be presented directly in their inbox, and they can take voting actions, approve, decline, and other actions really designed by the system in order to route the approval as well. So that hopefully gives you a decent idea of end-to-end through the flow of a commercial loan origination process, where we went from a loan officer to an underwriter to back to a loan officer, ultimately to a loan committee. What you noticed, of course, is all the data flowed forward seamlessly. The user experience, there were notifications. Everybody knew exactly who needed to do what, when, and how. And of course, it not only performed the tasks, the lookups, but also any calculations, all without having to incorporate any custom development.